Hi there, Duke fans. Welcome to episode 811 of the Duke Basketball Roundup. For a little while, it looked like this might be the last episode of the regular season. Luckily, or of the season, I should say. Not we're into the postseason, not the regular season. Luckily, it is not. I am Jason Evans. I'm here with my buddy Donald Wine. It's about 7:40 p.m. We've had Donald a few hours at least to digest what was a quite a game against the Sienna Saints. Let me start by asking you this, my friend. Pulse pounding or relatively calm? Where were you as you watched this game that I think most people think was a nail biter?
I was sitting right here because I was working, and
I don't mean where were you physically. I mean where were you mentally?
Well, no. I think it creates context because I never get too high or low about these things. I've learned over the years that my blood pressure just does not allow for me to do that. And sure, it's one thing where if I'm amongst friends and in the, especially going out, there's some of my friends who were out and watching the game in a mixed setting, the emotion ratchets up a little bit. It's very controllable here in my apartment while I'm working. So I didn't have the highs and lows. I will tell you, Jason, I also mute all my notifications and stuff like that because I knew people were going to be talking about the game. I knew they were going to be texting me during this game, and I respond to some during the game, and some people I know are ahead of my actions, so I just respond during breaks. I had 170 text messages come in the 5 minutes after the game was over. Imagine if we had lost. These were from people dissecting a win, and again, this like I said online, I said this before, it is not thrive and advance in March. It is survive and advance. And sometimes, and sure, we didn't want to survive against Sienna, but we did, and that's credit to Sienna. And again, we still had to dig deep to come back and win this game without two starters and with the momentum very clearly on Sienna's side. So a lot had to happen for this to be in this position, but the most important thing, everyone, is exhale. We are still dancing.
Yeah, so before we get to the headlines, just a little bit of historical perspective. Duke is now the 16th time in history that a number 1 seed has beaten a number 16 seed by less than double digits, 9 points or less. There have been 15 of them that happened prior to today. Of those 15, not a single one of those teams went on to win the national title, though 3 of them went on to make the Final Four. And additional historical perspective for folks. If you've been a Duke fan as long as I have, you remember Mississippi Valley State. The game in 1986, March 13th, 1986 was the day. Mississippi Valley State was a 16 seed. Duke was number 1. Duke was the far and away number 1 team in the nation. This was Johnny Dawkins' senior year. Danny Ferry was a freshman. I was a freshman watching games on campus. We thought we were unbeatable. And Mississippi Valley State had the lead on Duke well into the second half. It wasn't until about the 11-minute mark that Duke managed to take the lead, and they pulled away a little bit late, but it was a very, very, very uncomfortable game. I was reminded, you and I both got a text message from none other than Kenny Denard, the dog. Mm-hmm. Kenny texted us and he said, guys, I remember March 12th, 1978, a top 10 Duke team was playing its opening game of the NCAA tournament against unranked Rhode Island, and it was a 1-point game into the final seconds, and Rhode Island had multiple shots from right in there, from point-blank range to win the game, and they just didn't go down. That Duke team went on to play Kentucky for the national title. Like I said, the 1986 Duke team against Mississippi Valley State went on to play for the national title, made the national championship game, both those teams. So one game, even one really bad game, is not proof that this team will not be cutting down nets when the time comes.
Look, Jason, you went back 45 years. I only have to go back 1 week. We survived against Florida State a week ago, right? Like this is something again. And I told you, I hate
Florida State's way better than Sienna.
doesn't matter, right? Because it's March. It doesn't matter how much better you think this team is, right? Sienna had a chance to win this game, right? In the last couple of minutes, they still were within shouting distance, and they were ahead for most of the game. But I say that to say these games are going to be like this. This is what March is for, right? You just hope that this magic doesn't happen to your team or against your team, I should say, if you're one of the one seeds or two seeds or three seeds. You know who's going home today? Wisconsin, because that magic happened against them, right? That's the beauty of March. You want all the chaos in the world at March, except for when your game happens. And so for 99% of America, chaos happened in this game. It just didn't end the way that they would want it to. We are still alive in this postseason to do something about it, to respond when we play TCU on Saturday. And I know we'll talk about that in another episode, but I just want to get that out there that survive and advance means something, and these games mean something. This is why during the season I said I don't really care about having close games. I don't like the blood pressure going up like that. But we have that battle tested mentality. We have the opinion that these guys can come back and beat any team, and they just need to withstand the storm. They did that. Now they learn from it, and now we get better because we do need to get better in 4 to 8 hours.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get to the headlines, my friend. I'm going to start with John Grantland, probably our most faithful headline writer, always sends us multiple entries. I really like this one. He said, the Saints went marching in, but they also went crawling out thanks to too much booze. That's a good one, John.
Mm-hmm. I had Jacob Smith. Jacob Smith said, Sienna scares in South Carolina as Duke is shaken in the first round.
I got another one from Jared Strauss that gives us the S alliteration. Duke seemingly sleepwalks against Sienna, salvages season in second.
I like that one. I had that one on my list as well. Jonathan Matthews wrote out-coached. I believe he's a first-time writer. Jonathan Matthews wrote out-coached and outworked. Shire's sly solutions survive Saints slaying. And we'll talk about John Shire's words in the post-game interview and a couple other interviews that were of note.
All right, one more alliteration from me. Mark Goodell gave Mark Goodell gave us crunch time. Caped Crusader Cayden caps comeback with confident game winner. Cayden Boozer to me was the story of this game.
Oh yeah, and Larry Chapman. My final one that I have is Larry Chapman wrote, "Hail no, Devils deliver divine comeback to stun the Saints."
So in addition to headlines, a few folks sent us like very brief observations, one-liners, and I just want to shout out some of them that I thought were really good. Steve Eisengrau. Steve cited an important rule that you and I have, Donald. He said, good things happen when you wait until the end of the game to send your email. Mm-hmm. He's right about that. We, as is well known, if you're a listener to this podcast, you know, we do not accept emails before the game is over. So if you wanted to send one at halftime about how disgusted and angry you were, don't send it to dbrpodcast@gmail.com. We're deleting that stuff. We don't even read it. Steve, by the way, also said he was not ready for a decrease in the number of pod episodes. We're with you. We want as many episodes as we can in March and April.
This is a lot of work during March, and we are prepared to do it every day if we have to, if it means we're playing basketball. We'll do as much of it as we can.
We got a good line from Jacob Franks. He said, these Saints got me feeling like a devil with all the cussing I did this afternoon. Jacob, you were not alone.
Yeah, I like that one.
And then Lee Maxon, I thought this was really good. Lee said, to paraphrase Billy Joel, I'd rather laugh with the Devils than cry with the Saints.
Yes.
That is a really good line. Thank you for pointing that one out, Lee. I like that a lot. Donald, let's get to the good from this game. I'm going to start with clutch. Never faltering. This team understood what was in front of them, and they got it done. And that is not a quality that a lot of people usually associate with the Duke Blue Devils. We've talked about it endlessly this season. Oh, Duke builds big leads, and then they hang on. Well, that was not the case in this contest at all. With 8 minutes left in this game, Donald, Duke trailed 61-56. Over about the next 7 minutes, I don't have the exact length of time, but over about the next 7 minutes, Duke outscored Sienna 11-0 to take a 6-point lead. It wasn't, Donald, that we were great on offense. It was that we started playing Duke defense, and Sienna honestly probably got a little bit tired. And look, by the way, while it was courageous and heroic for Jerry McNamara to play his starters the entire damn game, it may not have been the best strategy down the stretch.
One guy did get 10 seconds worth, or actually it was like 3 seconds worth of time. He tried to get the foul. He didn't. They subbed him out.
Yeah, exactly. But our defense during that 7-minute stretch, that was the Duke defense that we all, came to see. We contested shots better. We walled up the middle, did not go for fakes. They tried to go in the middle against us again and again. And Duke was just like, no, you're not going to get you're not going to get easy shots in here the way you were in the first half. After allowing 22 points in the paint in the first half, we only allowed 8 points in the paint in the second half. After allowing an outrageous, ridiculous 43 points in the first half, Duke only allowed 22 points in the second half. And it was that 7-minute stretch, that 11-0 run, that is the reason that Duke is still playing today. And again, I will say it was built around defense. It was built around toughness more than it was built around great offensive execution.
Yeah, I think that part, that dig deep portion of the game, I would call it for Duke, because like you mentioned, we were down and it felt like every single time we got within 2 or 3, Sienna would make a shot and drive it back up to 4, drive it back up to 5, drive it back up to 6. And it just felt like no matter what, we just kept, knocking at that wall, knocking at that door, and they just would not open it. And finally, that run from the 8:19 or 7:53 mark to the 50-second mark, right, when they made it a 4-point game, we were able to slowly but surely get them to take tough shots, contested shots, shots that your legs could have gotten you through, but they were blown out by the fact that they spent so much energy with those 5 guys over the course of the previous 35 minutes. I think that was really what changed the tide, and we dug deep. Of course, it's not like we had many subs in this game, right? We played right. 7 guys. But I think at the end, we were able to push through and have a poise about us. Again, we've been in these situations before. Sienna has as well, but they haven't been in situations like we have, in the sense that we've played tough teams, some of the top teams in the country, and we've played some of them very, very close down to the last possession, where we knew that tired legs and tired minds had to make a play. That's where I think we were able to persevere. And once we took the lead and we held them off and made that lead 4 points, that's when I really thought, okay, I think we had the momentum for, not necessarily for good, but now we can try to figure out how to hold them at arm's length.
Yeah, and part of the effort that we're talking about, to me, really showed up on the boards. In the second half, Duke out-rebounded Sienna, get ready for the number, 30-13. Mm-hmm. Duke had 12 offensive rebounds in the second half. Sienna only had 7 defensive rebounds. We rebounded better than 63% of our missed shots in the second half, and there were numerous possessions where Duke would get 2 or 3 offensive rebounds on a single possession. As a result of that, we scored 15 second half points in the second half. Again, I said Sienna scored 22 total points in the second half. Duke had 15 second chance points in the second half. On the whole, for the entire game, Duke wins the battle of the boards. We win the rebounding battle, 43-31, another double-digit rebounding victory by Duke. And the other thing that kind of, to me, goes hand in hand with that is, in the first half, we were settling on offense. We weren't getting the right kind of looks. We took 15 threes in the first half and only 13 two-point shots. Donald, I say it all the time. I think, only under the most extreme circumstances should Duke be taking more than 50% of the shots from 3, because I think this is a team that really gets good shots from 2. In the second half, we took 11 threes and 22s. Now, that may be skewing even a little bit more, that I would want, but a lot of that was Duke just saying, we are going to go inside. We're going to force you guys to play hard defense against us, and we're just going to keep on battling. We're going to keep on getting offensive rebounds. You're going to have to foul us. Like, we took 13 free throws in the second half. That's a big number. It was smart game planning for a team that is a little bit smaller, a little more tired, not as physical as you are. And by the way, as long as I mentioned the free throws, I should point this out. Duke fans love to complain when we miss free throws. People go crazy on it. And this Duke team has had some games where free throws have frankly cost us contests, or made contests way less comfortable than they should have been. In this game, Duke hit 18 out of 21 free throws, 86% and we needed every damn one of them against Sienna. But I just want to point out that in a really close elimination game, here was Duke hitting 86% from the free throw line. So stick that in your hat.
I want to talk about what I thought was the catalyst that changed the game, and that's Cayden Boozer. I think
No argument, sir. I agree.
not just the points, right? He had 19 points, 2 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals. It wasn't even just his scoring; it was his hustle.
You left out an important stat there. 0 turnovers, 5 assists,
Correct.
0 turnovers. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't the fact that he was scoring, right? And there was times where he was making some crucial buckets. It was his hustle, it was his will, it was his determination, it was his tenacity. It was him deciding that they needed a spark and he was going to be it. And God bless everyone else who tried to get in his way. It was really great to see the fact that he was able to take charge. And I think after the game, John Shire kind of commended him and saying, look, this guy has stepped up in big ways with Caleb Foster out. But really what was on there was his leadership. I mean, as a freshman, that's hard to say. His poise, him and his brother both showed poise at large parts of this game. But they also, I mean, Cayden Boozer was very, very good at getting to the rack when nobody else was. He was good at making that final pass when no one else was able to. He was good at getting that defensive stop when other people weren't. And when there was a hustle play, it felt like Cayden Boozer, his name was written into the stat sheet on the play-by-play on every single one of them. I just love the fact that he came out and showed that kind of hustle and that kind of determination. And it's the reason why we're still playing today.
Yeah. So Ken Pomeroy named Cameron Boozer as the statistical MVP of this game. I had to look at that twice. I was like, how is that even possible that it was?
He might have messed up, right? Because it's Boozer, like he might have messed up.
Yeah, right, exactly. I thought, I agree with you. I mean, arguably Cayden's best game in a Duke uniform. 19 points were a career high for him. He pushed I love the way he was pushing the pace the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I know that Duke is playing with a very short bench, but Sienna has an even shorter one. And Cayden was like, look, I can run up and down this damn court all day long. So that's what I'm going to do. And you guys are going to be, you're going to have trouble following me the whole way. Cayden took the most shots of anybody on the team from the field. Now, I know part of that is skewed because almost every time Cameron went up to shoot, they fouled him. Doesn't count as a field goal if you get fouled on the play. But for Cayden to take 16 shots from the field, he knew he needed to look for his shot. He needed to help drive this team's offensive output, and he succeeded at that. And look, over the last 3 games, ACC semifinals, ACC finals, first round of the NCAA tournament, 3 of the most important games, probably like 3 of the 4 or 5 most important games of the entire season. He's averaging like close to 17 points per game. I mean, we talked all year. Who's the second scorer? Wow, maybe Cayden's the second scorer for this team, the way he's been playing lately. Really, really outstanding game from him. You mentioned Cameron briefly, and I want to get into that a little bit more. Probably, I don't know. Was it a good or a bad 22-13-3 game?
Talk about the good part first, because we'll save the bad part for the stuff to improve.
Okay. All right. So the good part was he drew 10 fouls, got to the free throw line, and hit 13 out of 14 free throws. That's just really, really, really good from him. I love the way he was, even when he was, I think, probably a little frustrated with his own play. He kept on fighting. He kept on being the focal point of the Duke offense. And yeah, just the counting stats, those things matter. 22 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, a plus minus, he was plus 12 when he was on the floor. So yeah, there's going to be stuff I'm going to mention when we get to the bad for sure. But in the end, Cameron Boozer is the focal point of this Duke team, and they got the victory. And in the second half, especially, they rode him to victory.
Look, I think in the second half, especially, I think the first half he was limited in a way because he didn't want to pick up his second foul. So there was times where he had to he couldn't be as aggressive as he wanted to be. But in the second half, he had 9 points. He had 11 rebounds, 4 of them offensive, and he had an assist and a block. And again, I think there was times in the second half where he realized, especially early on, you mentioned the number of free throws that he took. He took 8 free throws in the second half, and drew 7 fouls in the second half, 7 of the 10 fouls that he drew. And I think what he did was he was like, okay, you know, I had to kind of stave off being in foul trouble here, but no, I'm no longer in foul trouble. It's the second half. They need me to be aggressive. They need me to be a playmaker. Let's go make some plays. And if those plays were made by getting fouled and going to the free throw line, so be it. If it meant that he had to go get rebounds, so be it. But I appreciate the fact that after a very difficult first half, he was able to step up and provide some of the production that we are, have come to know from him. And I think, sure, there's a lot of stuff you could talk about, but I like the fact that he was drawing fouls, and because of that, that's when Sienna started getting tired. That's when Sienna had to start thinking twice about what they were doing, because the last thing they wanted was foul trouble as well. They're only playing 5 guys. So you don't need somebody with 5 fouls fouling out with 10 minutes left because they tried to go after Cayden Boozer all day. So they had to limit what they were doing, and that opened up the floor for other people inside the lane to be able to get to the rack.
All right, a couple other things I got in the good. First of all, I want to commend Cam, Cayden, and Isaiah for playing every damn second of the second half, and we needed them. Isaiah, especially down the stretch, was like, give me the ball. Don't worry about it. I'm going to hit these free throws. He missed one, but he hit the other ones that he took, and he just seemed like his usual confident kind of self. We got off to a really nice start in this game as well, Donald. I wanted to mention that. Our first 2 buckets came very easy. Isaiah hit a 3-pointer, and I felt like we were off to the races and going to go on a roll. Rest of the first half didn't work out that way, but, we talk sometimes about this Duke team having slow starts. That was not the case here. And then last thing I had was, other than, and I'll mention this a little bit later, other than a few possessions where I was like, what the hell happened there? Duke did a nice job of holding on to the ball in a game where you felt like possessions really, really mattered, because Sienna was milking the clock a lot. This was a game with not a lot of possessions, only 62 total possessions in this game. Duke only had 8 turnovers total on the game, and neither Cayden Boozer nor Dame Sarr had any turnovers in this contest. So, like I say, in a low possession game, that kind of thing matters.
The last thing I had, Jason, was when you look at the stats, I want to list some of the intangibles real quick. All right. You mentioned rebounding, 43-31. Offensive rebounds, Duke 16, Sienna 11. Second chance points, Duke won that 19-9. Bench points, 3-0. Paint points, 36-30. Fast break points, 9-4. Points off turnovers, 9-7. All of those skewed in favor of Duke. And Jason, every last one of those stats went the other way in the first half. Sienna was leading at the half in all of those categories. That is a monster second half. And again, it's probably a combination of us stepping up to the plate and Sienna wilting because they were getting tired. Doesn't matter how you do it in the NCAA tournament, but winning those intangibles, as we mentioned, it's very rare to win those intangibles and lose the game. We've only done it once, right? It was that UNC game where we were ahead the whole time until the final, second of the game. But again, those little things, all of those details added up to us being able to overcome an 11-point deficit at half, a 13-point deficit at one point in the second half, and come back and win this game by 6. You may look at this and say it was a terrible game, and sure, on many levels it was. But this is what March Madness is about. This is why you play those games, you play all this stuff in the beginning of the season to get to this point where when the chips were down, these guys believed in themselves and said, we can do this. We just have to play Duke basketball. Those intangibles, that's Duke basketball. We just need to continue to do that for the rest of the tournament. Of course, that's easier said than done. But in the second half, we stepped up and played Duke basketball. Duke basketball won.
With that, we're going to take a quick break. On the other side, things to work on because the Blue Devils are continuing to play. And so we got to work on things and get better and keep on winning. We'll have that for you in just a moment.
DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook for live betting, is built for March. The tournament is unexpected. Rewards are guaranteed. DraftKings Sportsbook is delivering the most generous rewards on the market.
Yeah, with DraftKings, the #1 sportsbook for live betting, you're not betting on what might happen. You're betting on what's happening right now. Are you new to DraftKings? Bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DukeBB. That's code DukeBB to turn $5 into $200 in bonus bets instantly. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Tap the banner or visit usaa.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number, 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number, save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Hi everyone, I'm Charlie Cox. Join us on Disney Plus as we talk with the cast and crew of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
What haven't you gotten to do as Daredevil?
Be in the Avengers.
Charlie and Vincent came to play.
I get emotional when I think about it.
One of the great finales of any episode we've ever done.
We are going to play Truth or Daredevil.
What? Oh boy.
Fantastic.
You guys go hard, man.
Daredevil Born Again, official podcast, Tuesdays. And stream Season 2 of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus.
All right, back from the break on the Duke Basketball Roundup, Jason and Donald. Donald, I want to start by saying hats off to Sienna. Mm-hmm. They hit a ton of tough shots. They showed a ton of guts. They never backed down. They always kept fighting. They found a way to exploit mismatches that worked for them. We talked in the preview about some of these guys. Doty was a stud. So was Folafak. I was terribly impressed with those guys.
In the preview, I had mentioned some things to watch and what we can and can't do to make this an easy game. I said, you mentioned that Siena was one of the worst three-point shooting teams in the country, and I said, don't let that fool you. This is the NCAA tournament. Things can happen. What did they do in the first half? They went off from three. That's how they started to build the lead. We talked about the fact that they wanted to get inside the paint. That's something that we like to do, right? I was like, great, let's control the paint. We did not control the paint in the first half. We did not control the rebounding in the first half. That is all credit to Siena for how they came out and attacked us. The first thing they did was they got a foul on Malik Brown, then they got a foul on Cayden Boozer, and then after that, they went to work in the paint because they knew that those two guys did not want to pick up their second foul and get pulled out of the game. And even when Malik Brown went to the bench and we brought in Nick Minia, they even dug further, right? They went further into the trenches and said, let's get to the rack because Cam is not going to want to pick up a second foul now either. And I think that is a credit to Jerry McNamara and Siena and their players for executing their game plan. And yes, they hit some good shots. They hit some difficult shots. They were on fire for quite a bit. For most of the first half, they were shooting over 60% from the floor. And I think that is them coming out and, again, getting momentum, which is what you never want an underdog to get. And I think they played their butts off. And so you have to really give them credit for that.
So I want to talk now about the controversy, which is a comment from Malik Brown at halftime. He came out, the reporter came out to interview him from CBS, and it sounded like, so he was talking about what John Shire's message had been to them in the locker room and that kind of stuff. And it sounded like he said that Duke was really overconfident and that we were looking, we just sort of thought we were going to blow Siena out of the building and we didn't come prepared. It sounded like Malik was saying that's what the players actually thought. I think what Malik, if you really listen to the full context of the interview, I think he was saying that's sort of the message that John had said to the team. But there are people all over the place online who are saying, how dare Duke admit that they were overconfident? How dare the players say we knew we were better than Sienna, and so we didn't prepare properly for this game? Again, I think that was probably, people not quite understanding exactly the way Malik was saying things. And also, Malik's talking off the cuff. It's not prepared remarks or anything like that. I think, again, he sort of conflated what John had said with what the team actually did in terms of preparation and where we were mentally. But there's just so much. So I'm seeing just dozens and dozens of people ripping on the Duke team for what they think was a overconfident attitude.
So I do, because this was something that I even missed because, like I said, I was working, and during halftime was a great chance to kind of mute everything. So a lot of, I got a lot of texts about this. And so I went back and I looked at I did the transcript of what was happening. So I'm going to tell you exactly what the transcript was from that 30-second halftime speech or interview. So Tracy Wolfson interviewing Malik Brown. Tracy said, "Sienna held you guys to 32 points. They shot 55%. What had you guys all out of sorts in that first half?" Malik said, "Oh yeah, just the first game. I feel like a lot of us was kind of nervous, but just got punched first. So we just got to respond back going in the second half." Tracy then asked, "What did Shire tell you in the locker room?" Malik said, "Oh yeah, obviously we weren't playing our basketball, just like I said. We thought it was going to be a cakewalk going into this game, so now we know what it is, and we just got to respond back the way we usually do." Now, the reason why, Jason, this is the controversy is that they immediately afterwards, as you probably saw, panned back to Ian Eagle, Bill Rafferty, and Grant Hill. And Grant Hill immediately talked about the word cakewalk and said, wow, like, they should not be underestimating. It's clear that they were looking past Sienna. And I agree with you. I think Malik probably did not articulate well what John Shire was trying to tell them, but I'm sure John Shire in the locker room, I don't think we'll get the Duke Blue Planet video from this one. But I think
it'll be edited. If we get it, it'll be edited.
I don't think they'll put that one in there. There's probably paint that is on the floor now because he talked it off the wall. But I think what he was trying to say was that Duke was playing like this was a cakewalk, like playing, even though throughout everything, every game we've seen this year, these guys have not looked for a second past that game. And they weren't doing it for Sienna either. We were both in the press conference a day ago where all the players were like, we're not even worried about the second round game. We're worried about Sienna, right? They hammered that home. And so I think it was just him obviously coming out and being in front of TV, which we know he doesn't really like to do. And the words were just kind of misplaced enough for people to say, oh, these guys just thought they were just going to roll over here. I don't think that was the case. And I'm definitely sure that Malik Brown was not a guy who thought this was going to be a cakewalk. He knows Jerry McNamara. Jerry McNamara recruited him at Syracuse. He knows what this team can do. So I think I think this will blow over, but I think the point of it is in the first half, that is how they played. They played like this was going to be a game that Sienna at some point was going to run out of gas in the first half. We were going to go on our run and we were going to take over. Instead, again, credit to Sienna. They took the game to us in the first half. We got punched in the mouth, like Malik said, and now we had to respond in the second half to avoid the shocker.
Donald, I want to talk a little bit about our perimeter shooting. I mentioned earlier that Duke took too many threes in the first half. It wasn't just that we took too many threes. It was that we were taking threes without bothering or trying to find a better shot, bothering to look and see if there was a better option than the three-pointer. And look, I get it. A good open three-pointer is always a good option, but sometimes it's not the best option. And sometimes when you're in a bit of a dogfight against a team that isn't as big as you and where you've got a big advantage on the inside, bang it in there a little bit more, especially because when you bang it in there more, you're going to have an opportunity to maybe get more open shots from the perimeter. In the first half, Donald, Duke was just 2 of 15 on three-pointers. I mean, Isaiah's 1 of 5, Dame's 0 of 3, Nick and Darren missed a couple. Even Cameron. Cam is usually like our most consistent three-point shooter. Even Cam was 1 of 4, 2 of 15 on three-pointers, just 13% in the first half.
And those, Jason, and those two were in the first 4 shots of the game when we went 4 for 4.
Yep.
We missed every 3-pointer after that.
Yeah, exactly. And even on the whole game, in the second half, we shot 3 of 11 on 3-pointers on the whole game. Just 5 of 26, 19% on threes. You gotta clean that up a little bit. I'm not saying this Duke team needs to hit 40% from 3. I'd love it, but I'm not saying that has to happen. But man, you gotta find a way to be better than 19, 20%. And you can't shoot as many threes as we were shooting if you're missing as many threes as we were missing.
I think, again, if we're hitting 30%, which is still low for us, just think of how many points that is extra, right? Like, so when you think about some of these things that went wrong for us, they're easily, things that can clean up. I'll reiterate the fact that in the first half, we were outworked. John Shower said after the game that he was outcoached by Jerry McNamara, and I have to agree with him, right? Sienna had a game plan and they executed it brilliantly. The only thing that they did wrong, essentially, was run out of gas. When they ran out of gas, that's when they started missing shots. That's when they started, really letting Duke get back into it. And so for the first 30 minutes of this game, those guys were on one. And if we weren't Duke fans, we would sit there and be like, man, that was a sight to see. Fortunately, we're Duke fans, so we gotta talk about it in the negative. But I think at the end of, when we look at these games, this is going to be the easiest game of this tournament. You have to just go into this with this mentality that game we just experienced is the easiest game that we will experience in this tournament, because every team saw that game and said, "Ooh, number 1 overall seed, huh? Got some flaws." Yeah, we can explain. And I know TCU, who had the head start, right, because they played early, they were probably in stands going, "Ooh, this is something we can do." So these guys have to really knuckle down and understand that DUKE across their chest means everybody in the country hates them. Everyone in that gym in Greenville is going to hate them. They don't want them to win. They're going to go for any team that we face. And we need to come with the mentality of, cool, they're not going to beat us in tenacity. They're not going to beat us in heart, drive, motivation, or determination. Period. And Sienna was beating us in those categories. That's why they were winning this game for 35 minutes.
Last thing I have and that needs to work on, I thought Duke did not get very much from the bench. We talked extensively during the ACC tournament about the tournament that Nick Homenia had. He was truly outstanding. Today, not nearly as much. Plays almost 24 minutes, but just 1 of 5 from the field, 3 rebounds. Just didn't feel like he had the same impact on the game that he usually does. And then Darren Harris, 9 minutes, doesn't hit any shots. He had 1 rebound. But Nick and Darren, in the plus minus, were the 2 lowest guys in the team. They're both negative in their plus minus, and everybody else on the team, it was close, but everybody else in the team had a positive plus minus. We need a little more from our bench. And speaking of that, boy, I'm really hoping that Patrick Gungba feels good and is ready to go on Saturday. That would be a big lift for this team.
Jason, the last thing to improve in this one is, we had 8 turnovers, you mentioned, and Cameron Boozer had 5 of them. And
I wanted to mention that earlier. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and this is what lends us in the first half to be like, oh, he had a so-so game despite, again, having, a double-double and a couple assists shy of a 10-5-5 game. I think the turnovers came because he was frustrated, and sure, there was some reason for him to be frustrated, especially in the first half. But and it's obviously his first game in the NCAA tournament. Now that that's over, now that's behind him, I think we're going to see a different Cam Boozer on Saturday. I think we're going to see one that's a little bit more poised. We've seen that poise all year long, so we know it's present. It just wasn't present today. It's a rare occasion. I'm not going to really beat up the guy for it. He didn't cost us the game or anything like that. I thought he, in many ways, helped us in this game. But the turnovers, we're used to him having these games where he has a few assists and maybe 1, maybe 2 turnovers. 5 is too much. 5 means that other teams are getting momentum off of your handle, and you don't want that.
Yeah, I also thought Cam's defense, especially in the first half, was not what we usually see from him. I think part of it was he's been instructed to take it a little bit easy and not get in foul trouble.
Not get the second foul.
Right, especially during these games where we don't have Big Pat as an additional help on the front line. Donald, let's get to the play of the game. I've got 2 candidates. I'm trying to decide which one. So why don't you go first, and I'll see. Maybe you'll take one of mine, and then I'll make my decision easy.
I also had two candidates, but I'm going to go with 2:10 left in the game. Sar's block on Mulvey on the dunk attempt right at the rim, because we were up 4 at the time. Sienna, we got the ball. Sienna then kind of poked it away from Malik Brown. Doty missed the 3, but then we go back the other way, and Cam gets a shot in the paint to make it 67-61 with 1:36 left. That block, if Mulvey dunks
it wasn't Cam, it was Cayden.
I'm sorry, Cayden, yes.
And it was, by the way, it was a ridiculous runner, not an easy shot by any stretch of the imagination, but that's the kind of shot that Cayden hits all the time in there close. Yeah, that was one of my candidates, was the crazy block leading to Cayden then getting that runner in the lane. It was a huge play.
Well, also, I mean, like, if Mulvey gets that dunk, or maybe gets the dunk and a foul, right, it's 65-63 with maybe him shooting a free throw, and that game's even tighter than it was. But again, from that block resulting in a play at the other end to make it, 6-point lead, again, not necessarily breathing room, but enough where Duke fans can go, okay, let's close this out. We were now focused to closing out the game, as opposed to, oh no, we're in another close game. Do we, how can these guys overcome this? So great play by Dame Sar at the right time.
Yeah, and the thing about Dame is, as great a defender as he is, we don't really know him that much for the block shot. He's obviously, anyone as long, as tall as he is, as athletic as he is capable of getting great block shots, but we're not used to that kind of rim protection from him. It was a monster play. That's also my play of the game. I agree with you. That said, I did want to shout out another play, which was with about 15 minutes left. Cayden had that one-man fast break where he got a rebound and just like weaved his way through the entire defense for a really nifty reverse layup. Duke wasn't in the lead. I think I want to say that cut it to 2, I believe. That play happened, and Donald, I literally felt myself sit back a little bit in my chair, relax a little bit, and I said to myself in my head, I said, this is the moment where I know Duke's going to win the game. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't have doubts after that moment, but that was the moment where I went, we're too good. We're not going to let this happen. Duke's going to win this game, because if nothing else, Cayden Boozer just showed me that he can will us to victory. That was an incredible drive by him.
The other play that I had under consideration until, again, Sar's block was with 17-14 left in the game. Sienna, with like 2 seconds left in the shot clock, Mulvey misses a dunk. Then he gets his own rebound, passes it off to Folethak, who tries to dunk. He misses it. It's a long rebound. Slim gets it, goes the length of the floor, and he dunks it on the other end. And I was like, man, that's a huge swing that will really pay off in the end.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. With that, folks, we're going to wrap it up here on the latest edition of the Duke Basketball Roundup. Check your feed. Have a look. We're probably back in it. We're going to be previewing the game against TCU. That's going to come your way midday or so on Friday. So depending on when you're listening to this, it may already be out there. If it's not, it's on the way in a matter of seconds, because the Blue Devils have survived and advanced on to the round of 32. And by the way, yours truly, Jason Evans, I will be attending the game, going to drive my way up to Greenville on Saturday. I'll be sitting on press row. Look out for me. I'll be wearing some Duke gear. It won't be too obvious. I'm on press row. I got to be I'll probably be wearing a Duke hat at least. Hope to see a bunch of you there at the game. Until then, his name is Donald. My name is Jason. Their names are the Duke Blue Devils, advancing on in the NCAA tournament. This is the Duke band playing us out and taking us to Greenville for the round of 32.